Only you let me down. Miller's expression was stern. I gave you a chance, but your choice is annoying. You had the opportunity to live a free life. It's stupid to have to make some revolution. Since you were repulsive to the current life, then live as a slave. Miller's eyes were cold, and his only compassion was torn apart. He is a pirate, not a saint. How can he be spared by eating inside and out? With a flick of his hand, bright silver lightning flew towards Bello Beatty. Her body dodged abruptly. Boom. The ground in front of him was shattered to pieces, and Bello Beatty looked at her with a chill. This guy is serious. If it hits himself, it is estimated that he will be beaten through. Dark water. Thick darkness burst out from Miller's palm, and Bello Beatty's slender body flew up under the pull of gravity. Fight. Bello Beatty also covered armament hockey with both fists, intending to fight to the death. Miller couldn't help feeling ridiculous and resisted. His fist slammed forward, and there was a bang. The atmosphere burst open, and the shock wave swallowed Bello Beatty like a flood. The woman's screams were particularly distressing. Her entire abdomen collapsed, and blood spurted wildly in her mouth. Bello Beatty fell to the ground like a dead dog, unable to move. Miller's eyes were cold, without any pity. To be honest, he is a man who loves and cherishes Jade. As long as this woman follows him, Miller will never treat her wrongly. But Bello Beatty's performance was disappointing, and the revolutionary army that Miller hated in her bones was what she supported instead. Miller could not tolerate this. Replace your personality as well. Lousy can see it anyway. It's too difficult to get your heart. I'm still interested in your body, haha. Miller laughed wildly, as cold as a demon. Sabaody Archipelago. Because of the fierce battle between Miller and Kizaru, the island has been extensively destroyed. Today, only 1/10 of a small area remains, and it continues to collapse, and it is not known when it will sink. Because it is the only way to the New World, the pirates who come here are still in an endless stream. After Monkey D. Luffy and Monkey D. Dragon parted ways, he came here, planning to rush to New World. However, Luffy's companions were photographed by Miller and flew around the world, and Luffy couldn't contact them either. He could only go to New World alone for the time being. In addition to being the One Piece, Luffy has one more goal: revenge for Usopp. Although we don't know that Usopp was killed, just know that Miller was the one who shot him. The enemy is too strong, and Luffy doesn't want to hurt the crew, and it's good to get on the road by himself. Shaki's bar. Luffy thought it had closed down, who knew it was still open. Pushing the door open, Shaki was greeted with a drink, and the gray-haired old man was resting on the sofa. It was Pluton Rayleigh. Although he was hit hard by Miller last time, he escaped. Luffy? After seeing Luffy in the straw hat, both of them had smiles on their faces. It's great to see you here. When friends reunited after a long absence, Luffy also smiled cheerfully. Where are your companions? Haven't they met yet? Shaki looked at Luffy alone, wondering. I don't know where they went, even. Usopp is dead. When he mentioned this, Luffy lowered his head sadly. Sorry, I don't know what happened to your companion. Shaki rubbed Luffy's head and came up to comfort him. You have to come on, little Luffy. As the captain, it is the responsibility of protecting the crew. I will definitely. I have been working hard during this period of time. I am no longer the little rookie I used to be. Luffy said loudly, looking at his words carefully. His body became stronger. Rayleigh looked at Luffy closely for a moment, but never said a word. Not enough. After a while, Rayleigh suddenly said, Luffy, are you going to take revenge? Just your current strength is not enough. Luffy heard that her little face was all stubborn. I don't care about the absolute strength of the shit. I just want to beat that guy all over to avenge Usopp. It's bold. I like it. Shaki gave a thumbs up, then spit out smoke rings. I like it. I like it. Rayleigh is telling the truth. Luffy, you can't beat Rayleigh at your current level, let alone that guy. The dissatisfaction on Luffy's face is more obvious. During this time he has been training desperately, and Conqueror's Haki is also in control under the dragon's training. Not only hard power, your power is not as good as Miller. Rayleigh said complicatedly. That guy is already the uncrowned king of the sea. Before Akainu led Marine Admiral to attack Dressrosa, he didn't get any benefit, he himself was injured. Not just Miller, his Shiryu and Enel are now comparable to Marine Admiral. In addition to that, there are a number of cadres. Your supernova is the most chaotic and strongest rookie in history. The worst one. The worst. Why do you say that? Luffy was confused. Because you have a monster Miller. The supernova was either defeated by him or tamed by him. Shaki added. To defeat Miller, You not only need to improve your own strength, but more importantly, your own power. Rayleigh's eyes shone brightly. In fact, Luffy's wealth is really not bad. His father is the Revolutionary Army boss, his two brothers are Ace and Sabo respectively, and they are not bad in strength. In addition, Luffy's guide is red-haired, and there is even a marine hero grandfather Monkey D. Garp. Compared to the background, no one in this world can compare to Luffy. Luffy, unite everyone's strength, so that you can find a way to defeat Miller. Remember, the battle between pirates is never single, you need a strong partner. Rayleigh seriously explained that if Luffy can integrate the power of these people, then there is no doubt that he will form a huge super pirate group. At that time, Rayleigh and Shaggy might also join in. Listening to Rayleigh's explanation, Luffy was thoughtful. It was his horrible background. He didn't know how many times he helped Luffy. Otherwise, let alone being the One Piece, it is estimated that he would be killed before entering the New World. Is that guy already so strong? Luffy was both envious and surprised when he heard that the Miller Pirates had 30,000 members. Debut is the pinnacle, talking about people like Miller. After a few months of being a pirate, he is the uncrowned king of New World. It is really unrealistic to count on his ability to defeat Miller alone. The Revolutionary Army failed miserably at Marie Joy's. Only your father Monkey D. Dragon and Chief of Staff Sabo escaped. They were smashed by the Miller Pirates. Rayleigh sighed. The Revolutionary Army's fortunes for 10 or 20 years were completely defeated. In the beginning, I was opposed to joining forces with that guy. Luffy stomped fiercely. Why did he part ways with Monkey D. Dragon? After all, isn't it because of the Miller Pirates? The main reason is that the dragon was also induced by huge interests. During the time when they cooperated with the Miller Pirates, they overthrew more than a dozen countries one after another. People from Marine and the government are also positive and never persuaded. The coalition forces on both sides were invincible, and the dragon felt that the time had come to declare war on the celestial dragons. Who knew that Miller was so miserable? It's useless to say anything now. The Revolutionary Army has collapsed. You still have two powers to borrow. Rayleigh first raised a finger. The first one is Shanks. Based on your relationship with him, Shanks I definitely won't stand by, and Shanks itself has a lot of contradictions with Miller. The other is the second point. Rayleigh raised his second finger. Ace is also a great help. Although the Whitebeard pirates are fragmented, their captains have strong powers. You have to fight for them. After you integrate these forces, you can compete with Miller upright. Rayleigh preached confidently. I will work hard on this. Luffy nodded to understand. Come on. I believe Shanks will not misunderstand people. Rayleigh looked up at the straw hat on Luffy's head, endless memories in his eyes. In fact, there is another way to defeat Miller, but Rayleigh did not say anything, because that is the most extreme method. Once that strategy is adopted, it is no longer a pirate war in the ordinary sense. At that time, the whole world maybe get involved. Roger and his team can also understand the historical text. They also discovered the whereabouts of ancient weapon from those ancient texts. As Roger's right-hand man, Roger told Rayleigh all the secrets of the historical text in the whereabouts of ancient weapon. No one knows this secret. Oh, by the way, the dead man, Kazuki Oden, also knows this secret. Half a day later, Luffy set off, but this trip was very lonely. He went to the Fishmen Island on the boat of other pirate groups alone. Dressrosa. Miller ordered Luo to put Vegapunk's personality into Guy's mind. This process is full of risks. In the end, it is Guy's personality, Vegapunk's personality, or the third personality born after the fusion of the two personalities. It is temporarily uncertain. Miller asked Luo, but he didn't know too well. It was the first time that he had a personality transplant operation. The difficulty factor was very high, second only to the ageless operation. Ha ha ha. Soon after, excited laughter came from the operating room. It's all mine, hee 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 hee. This laughter sounded extremely harsh, too recognizable. Who else but Guy saw? He broke out of the operating room as fast as he could, and Miller happened to be waiting at the door. Master Miller, all the memories of Vegapunk are in my mind. Guy danced around Miller, indescribably happy. It's fine if you didn't go wrong. Miller nodded, and then asked calmly, can SSG be made for our use? Of course, it's too simple, I can. Impossible, you damn it pirate, I will never cooperate with you. Guy suddenly changed his painting style and stared at Miller fiercely. This tone, this expression, isn't it Vegapunk or who? It doesn't seem to be going well. Miller's brows condensed slightly, and Guy fainted with a punch. Wait. Maybe you will become a person in a while. Luo also frowned. Let's go. Just look at it. Once you find that Vegapunk's personality dominates. Miller wiped his neck. After returning to his bedroom, Miller had planned to make some girls cheer up. Especially Admiral Momoshagi, Marine's alternate, Miller also called. It's just that he hasn't had time to do something. The call from Marie Joyce disrupted all his interests. He stared at the black phone worm on the table, which was usually used to contact Lu Chi. Lu Chi is now Miller's informant. Without important information, he would not call. Retreat all. Miller let the girls leave, and there was only one person left in the empty hall. What's the matter, Lucky? Miller connected the phone worm. Lu Chi, who was across from the phone worm, was silent for a moment. We all look down upon celestial dragons, their big character seems to be dispatched. A few simple words have refreshed Lu Chi's lifelong 3 views. An hour ago, 5 elders went to a special place, that was the deepest part of Marie Joyce between the flowers. When they came out, there was a mysterious figure, covered in black, let alone his appearance, he didn't even look at his gender. Clear. Of course, it doesn't matter, but 5 elders nodded and bowed in front of it, and even respectfully called Lord Yim. Lu Chi did not expect that Celestial Dragons still has such a shocking character, whose status is completely above 5 elders. Looking at the humble appearance of 5 elders, Lu Chi feels like he is dreaming. The so-called highest power in the world is actually a servant of others. To make a long story short, Lu Chi took a minute or two to recount what Marie Joyce saw and heard. I didn't expect Eam to look up to me so much. Miller touched his chin, somewhat flattered. Lu Chi. Isn't the thinking of normal people scared to pee? Miller seemed to feel quite honored. Lu Chi. Your task at the moment is not to investigate Eam's strength, but to figure out its gender. Miller said inexplicably. Why? Lu Chi was puzzled. Because women are more likely to arouse my fighting spirit, especially beautiful women, ha ha ha, Miller laughed unscrupulously. Lu Chi. He was speechless. It was obviously a serious incident. After coming out of Miller's mouth, he seemed to have become an accomplice in his hunting. In short, you have to be careful. Khalifa finally found the backer. I don't want you to die so soon. Lu Chi said in a deep voice, CP9's companions are all dead, and he, Kaku and Khalifa as 3. Don't worry, I didn't want to die so early. There is no one who can kill me in this world. Miller calmly said, my uncle is immortal. Dressrosa. Miller also made a lot of improvements after I heard that Eam was dispatched. The first is to strengthen defenses to prevent sneak attacks by the world government. In addition, to be on the safe side, Miller also performed one-on-one surgery for most people. That's right, it's the majority. Of course, this majority is limited to Miller's women and a small number of his men. The first prerequisite is absolute loyalty. People like Bello Betty, who are in Cao Ying's heart, have no family. The price of the ageless operation is the life of the user. Unfortunately, Miller happens to be immortal, so this side effect does not pose a threat to him at all. In just a day's work, he performed lifelong operations on more than 10 people. Miller's only feeling was that he was tired like a dead dog, and couldn't lift his limbs. If someone came to catch him at this time, Miller would have no strength to resist. Miller's efforts are not without reward. First of all, these people are more loyal. He helped everyone realize their dream of being young and immortal. Take Robin, for example. She is almost 30 years old. The golden age of her life is about to pass. 30 years old is a feng shui ridge. After crossing this hurdle, a woman's appearance begins to show signs of decline. However, because of the old operation, Robin's face returned to his 20s, his skin was white and red, and his body was full of vitality again. It would be a bit nonsense for a 30-year-old woman to mention youth again, but after the transformation of the age-old surgery, Robin's puberty really came back. It's not just her, but the others too. Among them, Shiryu also received the transformation of the ageless operation. He was extremely excited. He did not expect Miller to have such a powerful ability. He was originally an old man in his 40s or 50, and the vicissitudes and wrinkles on his face, and even the injuries everywhere on his body disappeared in an instant. Miller is the only true god in the world, and all celestial dragons are shit. In Shiryu's bones, Miller was already treated as a god. Marie Joy, since EIM came out of the flowers, 5 elders has launched a large-scale personnel mobilization. They assembled hundreds of government personnel, nearly a dozen warships, and even the commander-in-chief of the army, Sengoku and Garp. This time, they will accompany EIM against Dressrosa. On Marie Joyce's holy ground, there are people in black everywhere, and they are extremely heavily guarded, even Garp and Sengoku can't walk around casually. Marie Joy in a bright and spacious room. Garp, the alert level is very high, even our freedom is restricted. Sengoku looked out the window, and those celestial dragons walking with slaves were so scared to come out. It's probably the big man behind the scenes coming out. 5 elders are all respectful to that guy. Garp still ate the senbei carelessly. In fact, he was also shocked in his heart. He knew that celestial dragons were not simple inside. They could defeat that super powerful kingdom hundreds of years ago. Celestial dragons could not be a group of wine and rice bags. There must be some trump cards in this super race that have not yet been revealed. Garp guessed that it was some kind of powerful weapon, such as ancient weapon. He could accept this, but seeing that 5 elders was so respectful to the so-called Eam, Garp was still surprised. Unexpectedly, there are higher-level celestial dragons above 5 elders. It seems that our understanding of celestial dragons is also very one-sided. Sengoku sighed again and again. It doesn't matter what they are going to do, we just need to obey the order. Garp still ate the senbei. Old guy, aren't you afraid that EIM will blame you? Sengoku was also drunk when he heard that, and he was scared to death when he changed to other people, because D is the deadly enemy of celestial dragons. And Garp's son is a revolutionary army, and his 2 grandsons are also pirates. One is the son of Roger the Pirate King, and the other Luffy is also not a fuel-efficient lamp. My old life can't be responsible for them, and the old man has retired, ha ha ha, Garp laughed indifferently. Sengoku turned over Byakugan when he heard the words, and sighed quietly. It would be nice if he had this mentality. Half an hour later, the blonde 5 elders came with a group of people. Garp and Sengoku, go to Dressrosa. The blonde 5 elders gave a very abrupt order. Both of us. Sengoku and Garp looked at each other. They both retired. What do you expect them to do? The content is very simple, conveying Lord Yim's will. Blonde 5 elders make a long story short. Speaking of what we are going to Dressrosa for? Sengoku asked suspiciously. We heard that most of that guy's subordinates gained the power of immortality. The old face of the blonde 5 elders couldn't help showing greed. Shiryu, Nico Robin and others have all returned to their youth. So you are also tempted? I thought how noble you are, after all, you are just ordinary people. Garp was full of contempt. Even in the presence of 5 elders, he still had this temper. Garp, don't you want to go back to your youth? The blonde 5 elders frowned and asked. Immortality is the dream of human beings since ancient times. Why can't we be tempted? Ha ha ha. Don't you celestial dragons pretend to be gods? The sarcasm on Garp's face was even worse. Humans are not wrong in pursuing eternal life, but do you need them as gods? Garp. Sengoku glared at Garp. The old guy was so bold that even 5 elders dared to humiliate him. The blonde 5 elders looked at Garp gloomily, and said bluntly, I don't want to argue with you about these nonsense, Garp. You and Sengoku will go to Dressrosa immediately to convey Lord Yim's will. As long as he is willing to help us achieve immortality, the past grievances can be forgotten. Otherwise. After half an hour, Sengoku and Garp set off, and they will rush to Dressrosa as special envoys. Have a so-called negotiation with Miller. Celestial Dragons is really willing to have a bargaining chip. After getting on the boat, Garp spoke freely. Sengoku, do you think those old guys are serious? People in the world don't want to live forever. I can accept what they spend in order to survive. Sengoku looked at the distant sea, his eyes gradually confused. It's just that once Miller has achieved it, what is the relationship between Marine and him? You're all retired. Why are you thinking about this? That's something Sakazuki should have. Garp patted Sengoku's shoulder to instruct. I don't have the optimistic mentality of yours. Sengoku pushed Garp away angrily. Speaking of which, if Miller refuses, will the war start again? Garp asked. Probably so. The Miller Pirates has exceeded the limit that the world government can tolerate. There are only 2 paths ahead of the Miller Pirates, either cooperation or war. Sengoku preached with great conviction. After half a day of sailing, the 2 rushed to Dressrosa together, and Miller thought at first that he was here to go to war. Negotiating. What is good for negotiation between the pirate and marine? It's not Shichibukai. Miller was surprised, and after thinking about it, he ordered Garp and Sengoku to be invited into Dressrosa Palace. Boy, this is your way of hospitality. In the main hall, many cadres of the Miller pirate group came, and countless people directly aimed their guns at the 2. You are not guests. I know everything about Marie Joy's. Maybe there will be a war. Miller said leisurely. These words made Sengoku look down. Does even Marie Joyce have your eagle dog? My dress Rosa isn't a piece of shreds that you infiltrated. You just performed an ageless operation on them, and you came. Miller chuckled. Did you really do them collectively without aging surgery? Hearing Miller admitted that Sengoku and Garp were both hit. They knew about Miller's possession of op fruit for a long time. The world government had also bought this devil fruit at a high price. The price was once fetched to 5 billion Baileys. Isn't it just a fancy to the secret of ageless surgery? Immortality surgery can give a person eternal life, and as a price, the capable person himself will perish. But Miller. He didn't die after doing a dozen or so operations at once. This F*K is too enchanting. Go ahead, what do you want to do? Miller asked straightforwardly. The government is willing to turn conflicts with you into jade silk, and the two sides will not violate the river water in the future. Sengoku was also straightforward. Sounds good. What price we need to pay? Miller asked. Perform ageless surgery on the celestial dragons, the top of Marie Joyce. Sengoku vomited the truth. Sure enough, it was for this. Miller heard the words without exception, and said lightly, I can't accept this price, our benefits are too few. Marine won't want you guys anymore, so what do you want? Sengoku frowned and asked. Is lousy rare? Miller smiled contemptuously. Even if you want me, you can't help but take this uncle. After all, you are here to empty the glove White Wolf, there is no sincerity. You are too greedy. Sengoku said angrily. Garp hasn't said a word. He stared at Shiryu. All the wrinkles on this guy's face disappeared, and his eyes were shining. The first impression was that he was very energetic, and the white hair on both sides of the temples turned into black and beautiful black hair. Sure enough, it was an ageless operation. Garp looked away from Shiryu, not only Shiryu, but also the others. Khalifa, Enel, Robin, and others were all undergoing age-old surgery by Miller, and their appearance changed drastically. Garp screamed badly in his heart. It is estimated that Miller is a godlike existence in the eyes of these people. Once Miller is moved, these people will desperately protect their boss. If you don't want the Miller pirates in the future, it's your condition, then go away, you are not welcome here. Miller waved his hand. Snap it. Thunder flashed in front of Sengoku, and Enel appeared in an instant, please. Sengoku took a deep look at Enel, and then his gaze fell on Miller again. The celestial dragons have other chips. Say. Miller rubbed his head. Half of the world. Sengoku's simple words shocked everyone. Half of the world. Did I hear it wrong? That group of guys are so willing? Miller puckered his ears. He suspected he had heard it wrong. You heard that right. Aside from the dozen or so countries that were overthrown by you in the Revolutionary Army, there are still another member of the world government. They are willing to hand over 80 of them to you. Sengoku speaks surprisingly. Celestial dragons can be said to be insincere before, but this time Miller can't pick a thorn. Half of the world. Sengoku thought Miller could not resist this temptation. Isn't the pirate's so-called dream to burn, kill, rob, and do whatever it wants? In Sengoku's eyes, the pirate's so-called pursuit of freedom is nonsense. Treasure, power, and women are their pursuit. With half of the world in control of more than 80 countries, Miller can do this kind of thing as he wants. No one stopped even if the sky was broken. Promise, boss. Oh my god, half the world, in the future we can be on par with the world government. The boss is going to be the rhythm of the king of the world. Those crew members started to booze. Facing the temptation, their hearts beat faster, and some people were so excited as if they were beaten up with blood. If Miller agrees, these little brothers will definitely follow suit in the future. Shut up, idiots, don't disturb the boss's decision, or I will cut you off. Shiryu's deep voice resounded through everyone's ears. It seems that you still don't understand my interests and hobbies. Even Kaido and Ant are smarter than the idiots in the world government. I have said countless times that I am not interested in governance. Miller shook his head. If Miller wants to conquer the world, the countries he has experienced, such as Alabasta and Dressrosa, have long belonged to him. After Miller defeated the enemy, he still gave the country to Cobra and the Liku royal family. I really want to get acquainted with me. It's better to find hundreds of capable people to make deals with beautiful women. Miller said leisurely. When Sengoku heard this, his old face flicked wildly, and if dozens of countries are handed over to you, will there be fewer beautiful women? So, I refuse. Miller's simple 3 words shocked everyone's eyes, and even Shiryu looked back at Miller. Refused? Garp and Sengoku were also dumbfounded, and huge doubts followed. Afterwards, the two sides shook hands and made peace, and even gave half of the world to Miller. For him, the old operation just consumed a little physical strength. This kind of big pie hits the head and refuses? Are you crazy? Sengoku couldn't help but screamed. Miller must have lost his heart. Ha ha ha, I'm normal, Sengoku, can you trust what celestial dragons said? Miller smiled with contempt. It's not just the pirates who don't believe in words. The world government is also very good at this. Who can guarantee that they will not go back? Miller asked with a clear mind. Sengoku opened his mouth and was speechless when he was questioned. The world government did not do this kind of thing. Even in his heart he felt that celestial dragons would definitely go back, and wait for Miller to finish the age-old operation, and then start doing it. Besides, there are some things you two know better than me, especially you, Garp. Miller stared at Garp. You should be impressed with what happened on that island back then. You defeated that guy with Roger. Garp's pupils suddenly shrank, and he said in surprise, you mean rocks? It's them. The Valley of the Gods that those people went to pursue something. I think you also understand why the world government erased all the news about rocks in the Valley of the Gods, don't you two say? You know too much. Sengoku yelled and interrupted Miller roughly. I do know a lot. Miller smiled lightly. That fellow Doflamingo told me that Uranus was sleeping in the Valley of Gods, and the necessity to awaken Uranus is eternal vitality. If I give those guys the power of immortality, I'm afraid they will use me as Uranus's whetstone in 2 days. Miller is not stupid. Shiryu, Enel, see off the guests. Miller closed his eyes indifferently and waved to the left and right sides. The graceful girl sat on his lap, and the cigar and grapes were delivered. This was the life he wanted. Little ones, I have enough food and drink. It won't be long before the world's top war is coming. Miller's loud voice resounded through everyone's ears. When the negotiations collapsed, the world government will definitely go to war. Please, two of you. Shiryu flashed in front of Garp and Sengoku with a cigar in his mouth. Why are you still standing here? Do you need this uncle to send you a ride with lightning? Enel smiled evilly. What to do, Sengoku? Garp looked at Sengoku, asking for his meaning. What else can we do? Is it possible that our two old bones go to war with them? Retreat. Sengoku gave Garp a blank look, and the two left side by side. After half an hour, Marine's battleship left Dressrosa. The fiercest battle in the history of the pirates is about to come. Sengoku looked at Dressrosa with emotion again and again. They will be witnesses of the times. Rock's pirate, which had already ruled the Grand Line at the time, was not as strong as Yim himself. Garp and Roger joined forces and went out. Regardless of the outcome of this war, it is historical and will bring a sudden change to the world. Garp is also rare and serious. If the world government wins, then the Miller pirates are like the rocks of yesteryear, falling apart. If the world government is defeated, they dare not imagine any horrible things will happen. Just like the celestial dragons overthrowing the ancient super kingdom hundreds of years ago, Miller will be the master of the world in the future. After half a day of sailing, Garp and Sengoku returned to Dressrosa. We tried our best, but that guy was not interested at all. He even knew the truth about the Valley of Gods and didn't trust the world government in his bones. Sengoku reported truthfully to 5 elders. How did he know? Miller hadn't been born yet. 5 elders, a bald head with a knife, asked puzzledly. It's Doflamingo. Garp added, sitting on the sofa. He was still eating donuts at this tense moment. Bang. Before the coffee was in his mouth, the blonde 5 elders was furiously smashed. That man should have killed his mouth early, traitor of celestial dragons. The other 5 elders are all black faces, and Garp secretly finds it funny. Do you guys have today too? It's useless to say these things now, and the secrets of the Valley of Gods are now exposed. The world must continue to be cleaned up. 5 elders with a long beard condensed cold light in the eyes. Send troops. An abrupt voice suddenly sounded, and both 5 elders, Sengoku and Garp, were stunned. Master Yim. 5 elders exclaimed. The moment they heard this sound, they did not see where the person was for the first time, but knelt down at the fastest speed. Sengoku knelt when he saw 5 elders. He couldn't help but do what he had done in the countryside. He also knelt down. Garp. Let him bow down to the evil celestial dragons? Isn't this nonsense? Snoring, snoring, snoring. Under everyone's eyes, this guy started to doze off, and he wouldn't kneel down for celestial dragons anyway. Garp. You bastard is simply insulting our IQ. Sengoku glanced at Garp. The old guy sounded like he was asleep. In fact, He kept his eyes open, seeming to be looking at Eames secretly. Step on. There was a crisp sound of high heels twisting, and a slender figure walked in. The person greeted is a tall woman. She wears a crown and a black 19th cloak. She has delicate features, and her eyes are as deep and terrifying as a black hole, making people afraid to look at each other. This is EIM. After seeing Eam clearly, Garp immediately closed his eyes and pretended to sleep. Get up. Yim's voice was cold, and he couldn't hear human emotions. She is an extremely old figure. She was leading the 20 kings to fight against the kingdom of D at that time. After a series of fierce battles, celestial dragons finally defeated the huge ancient kingdom. 5 elders got up one after another, and Sengoku followed suit. Master Yim, the guy who doesn't know what to do has rejected us. There is no need to continue to indulge him. The blonde 5 elders said respectfully, please destroy him. Ahem. Sengoku suddenly coughed a few times. He stood up and said, that fellow Miller is very powerful. Not only can he replicate his abilities, he also has an immortal body. It's quite tricky. Immortality. So he doesn't have to die. Im glanced over Sengoku and gave an understatement, but Sengoku got goosebumps and shut up quickly. He and Yim are people of different dimensions, with different ideas and opinions. Besides, with 5 elders here, Sengoku couldn't speak at all. Master Yim, we are all confident in your strength. That guy is a human in the end. The bald 5 elders complimented. Im is the strongest existence in the world. The other 5 elders followed suit. Sengoku watched silently. These guys used to be dragged like uncles, but now they are licking the dog in a humble manner. I thought only D was the enemy. Im glanced at Garp with a nonchalant gaze, and didn't pay much attention to it. Unexpectedly, such a guy would pop up suddenly. We didn't expect that, we just went to guard D. 5 elders also smiled bitterly. In their eyes, only the D family is the natural enemy of the gods, and the celestial dragons are jealous. The ghost can think of Miller's corner overtaking. Looking back at the beginning, if they could face Miller seriously before, it wouldn't make him grow to this point. Master Yim, we are ready for the fleet, and all government personnel are on board. Do I need to bring Marine? Asked 5 elders with a birthmark on his forehead. It doesn't make much sense to bring them. Yim shook his head and refused. In fact, in her opinion, 1 person is enough. Take 5 elders with them. You should find a cheerleader. After a delay of about an hour, more than a dozen warships set off from Marie Joy's. 5 elders has already set off, including 5 elders as Serval Yim is here. On the open sea, a group of fleets braved the wind and waves and approached Dressrosa. Lu Chi noticed Miller the first time he found the opportunity. I understand. I want to see the legendary Lord Yimu too. Oh, right. Miller patted his forehead and asked expectantly, is Yim a man or a woman? Why are you involved in this question again? Lu Chi was speechless, and he still said helplessly, girl, don't ask, it's beautiful. Ha ha ha, you know me well, Lucky. Miller's eyes turned sneakily, and he asked Lu Chi to vomit blood. Then look, will he be fascinated by my handsomeness? A good man like me, will she? Ha ha. Lu Chi on the other side hung up the phone worm. He had already said what should be said, and then it depends on Miller's good fortune. The only thing he worried about was Khalifa. The world government was dispatched this time. Except for Marine who did not lead, the rest of the people were brought along, such as CP and other organizations, and the army commander Kong also dispatched. Among them are Garp and Sengoku, and 5 elders trails along the road. To be honest, the death of a person like Miller is not worthy of distress. In such a stressful moment, you still want to soak others? My god, others are the kings of celestial dragons, like gods. How do you think Miller is a short and poor man? Get ready. Little ones, the enemy is already on the way. Let them take a good look at how powerful the Miller pirates are today. The voice of Dressrosa and Miller is transmitted to everyone's ears through the blessing of Sonic Fruit. Overthrow the world government, long live Miller boss. Since those guys dare to come, they won't be able to go back. The final victory must be ours. Don't look at Miller running the train with his mouth full. In fact, the whole army of the world government was killed. Miller was also very cautious this time. In any case, he will not allow himself to be defeated, because not only will he be unlucky, but his confidants will also be implicated. At that time, the entire Miller pirate group might fall apart. This is what he spent years. Oh no, it was a force that took months to work hard to build. At the moment, the huge Dressrosa has about 30,000 or 40,000, all of whom are combatants. Ordinary people have migrated to Punk Hazard ahead of time, so staying here is a burden. The cold air, flames, and poisonous gas on that island were all cleaned up. After everything was done, Miller was relaxing in the sun on the balcony of the palace. He looked at the warm sky and classical music was playing in the room. This was probably the last piece. Master Miller, everything is ready, just waiting for the enemy to come. Bartolomeo's voice rang. At present, the entire Dressrosa has been built into a steel fortress. If the enemy attacks by force, it will inevitably suffer a devastating blow. Then wait, the world government is so rampant, it will never come over from the sea like a pirate. Looking at the endless ocean in the distance, Miller thoughtfully. Tell Violet, watch carefully. Bartolomeo left after hearing this. Time passed quickly, and several hours passed in a blink of an eye. On the main ship of the world government, Commander-in-Chief Kong, Sengoku and Garp, as well as 5 elders and Yim are all on this ship. Sora stays with Garp and Sengoku. They have been in friendship for decades and have a deep relationship with each other. When Sora was Marine Marshal before, Sengoku was Admiral at that time. After he abdicated, he recommended Sengoku as the next Marshal. Brother Kong, can the Celestial Dragon's Im really defeat the replica Miller? Sengoku asked a little worriedly. It would be funny if it was to send warmth to Miller if he had such a big momentum. If you can't even do her, then you can count on ancient weapon. Sora put his hands in front of him, but he had a lot of confidence in Yim. Can destroy the kingdom of D, control the celestial dragons for hundreds of years, and make the respected 5 elders kneel down. How can such a woman be an ordinary person? Sengoku, eat a donut to calm down. I have said it countless times. What are you worried about after you retire? That Marine supervisor is just a false name. Garp handed Sengoku a bag of donuts. Shut up, you bastard. Sengoku glared at Garp fiercely, and he didn't know how easy this old guy could be. You two are still the same as before. Sora smiled when he saw it. When he was a marshal before, Garp and Sengoku were like bears, they fell in love and killed each other. Boom boom boom. The battleship shook suddenly, and splashes appeared on the sea. Several people rushed out of the cabin, and in that distant direction, the sky-shielding tsunami rolled over. Suddenly there was such a big tsunami on the good sea? It is difficult for Sengoku and others to understand, and it was calm before. It seems that Dressrosa is almost here, Commander Kong said thoughtfully. Even if it arrives, there are still more than 10 kilometers. That bastard can hit it from such a distance. Sengoku clenched his fists. The sea level seems to have tilted too. Miller seems to be using Whitebeard's shock fruit. Garp guessed, rubbing his chin. Boom rumble. Boom rumble. Boom rumble. At the same time, the blue sky darkened. Looking up at the sky, dark clouds covered the sky, and the vast sea enveloped the darkness. The most frightening thing is that there are countless electric currents riding in the dark clouds. This should be Thunderfruit, planning to kill us on the sea. I won't let you do what you want. Sengoku's body was full of golden light, and his body swelled open, transforming into a golden Buddha like a balloon. He condenses the shock wave in his slap, aiming at the sky, trying to disperse the thunder and lightning. Master you don't have to worry about this kind of thing, it can be solved by leaving it to Sengoku. Sengoku, who was about to attack, put down his slap and looked at the deck. I am already there. Her slender arms leaned toward the sky, and her white fingers stretched out like flower buds. What is this going to do? Sengoku was dumbfounded, and Garp and Sora also cast surprised eyes. It doesn't look like an attack. Kong analyzed. Yim's body was very calm. Actually, Sora has been with Marie Joyce for so many years, he has also heard of the existence of EIM, but it is just a few scattered news. Right now, he still saw the rumored Yim with his own eyes, and it was not clear what her ability was. Look, her hands have turned into trees. Sengoku suddenly exclaimed. The original willow-like lotus arms suddenly transformed into a rough and extremely dry branch, which seemed to have lost its moisture. Should this woman be a 1,000-year-old dryad? Garp said weirdly. You guy, keep your voice down. Commander Sora gave Garp a kick, and if Eam heard this, he would have to cure Garp for a crime of injustice. Ha ha ha, just kidding, don't mind. Garp stroked his head. Rumble. The thunder and lightning that had been brewing in the sky for a long time turned into a Z shape and landed, and Yim's seemingly dry arms exploded with a powerful swallowing power. The thunder and lightning was pulled over by her alive, and was absorbed by the dry tree hand like running water. This, Garp, Sengoku and others were horrified. Can EIM absorb lightning? At the same time, the tsunami produced by Miller using shock fruit was also crushed, and Yim's wooden arm grew wildly with a large number of vines, and all of them rushed into the ocean. This woman is very weird. I still haven't understood what her ability is. Is this ability to manipulate wood? Miller in Dressrosa also found this scene. He copied the staring fruit of Violet, and he could see the situation in the distant ocean. It shouldn't be, even wood fruits cannot absorb lightning. Miller shook his head again, and quickly denied Mumugwo's guess. Under normal circumstances, when the lightning strikes the wood, it should catch fire instantly or break on the spot, and the lightning will suppress the wood in terms of attributes. Gulu gulu gulu. After the vines on EIM rushed into the sea, they looked like hungry babies. The 20 to 30 meters high tsunami created by Miller was swallowed up by all those vines. Damn it. What kind of damn ability is this? Miller was stunned. The wood swallowing lightning itself is a world wonder, and now F*K has swallowed even the tsunami. Isn't this too nonsense? It doesn't matter what your ability is. Anyway, Dressrosa is here, your ability is lousies. Miller was relieved again, and by then copying Eam, her abilities would become clear. The warship of the world government quickly approached Dressrosa, and the battle between the two sides attracted the attention of the whole world. 4 emperors, Shichibukai, marine and other forces are all paying attention to the direction of this war. This can be said to be a clash between the two strongest forces in the world. Wait for bad luck. Miller the Duplicator. Akainu is raising a bed in the marine hospital. He was hit hard by his own, Dark Hound, in the previous battle of Dressrosa. If he hadn't been physically strong, he would have been as miserable as Whitebeard, with a hole in his body. Marshal Sakazuki, we have come to see you. Kizaru, Fujitora, and Green Bull walked into the ward one after another. Didn't I say to let the 3 of you stare at the other 4 emperors? At this time, Marie Joy's is empty and dying. Don't be taken away by the enemy again. Akainu scolded. Miller had his home stolen last time. He has a psychological shadow. This time he should be prepared in advance. The sea is now paying attention to the war between the Miller pirates and the world government. Who is still in the mood to care about Marie Joy's, don't worry, Kizaru said calmly. No matter who wins, both sides will lose a layer of skin, Fujitora said. On the side of the Miller pirates, Enel and Shiryu are not ordinary goods, and there are many cadres, Green Bull added. Speaking of which, the government didn't call Marines this time. Did they completely disappoint them? It hurts their heads. Kizaru rubbed his head. I am afraid that in the eyes of the world government, Marine has now become synonymous with incompetence. Isn't this better? Let them fight with the Miller pirates. It's better to die together, and then Marine will be able to get rid of the evil rule of the world government. Akainu made an amazing remark. In fact, the hateful temper of Akainu is not only against the pirates, but all the evil and celestial dragons is also included in this evil. In the past, Marine was at the forefront. Now things are getting bigger and it's beyond our jurisdiction. This time, let's watch the government's performance as if we were spectators. Kizaru lit the cigarette and took a pleasant sip. On the sea a few hundred meters away from Dressrosa, the warship of the world government was about to rush over. Fire. Bartolomeo took the phone worm and gave an order, and the hundreds of cannons prepared in advance began to fire at the same time. Boom 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 boom. Endless shells blasted down like a storm. The world government also responded quickly. Shock waves were released from Sengoku's slap, and many shells were shattered as soon as they flew halfway. Garp and Sora also released emission haki one after another, and the thick armament haki crushed a large number of shells like a repulsive force. In addition, someone from the 5 elders side also took action. The quaint long knife in the hands of the bald 5 elders grabbed its sheath, and the demon spirit raged. A huge slash slashed out, and the sky and the sea were split apart. Hundreds of the shells were also annihilated. That knife exudes such a strong demon spirit. Is it the first generation ghost? Garp stared at the bald-headed 5 elders' saber, the first generation ghost, one of the supreme sharp knives. Don't think this is over, you bastards. If both lightning and shock fruit can be absorbed, Lousy doesn't believe in magma, you can also absorb it for me. On Miller's side, his hands erupted with lava, and within a few seconds, he waved hundreds of times towards the void. Meteor volcano. A steady stream of fists rushed to the clouds, and then fell from the heights. The entire sky was dyed red, and it seemed to be burning from a distance. This is Sakazuki's ability. Sengoku's face turned black. Small bugs. Yim's side is still light and windy, and the wood on her hand begins to grow crazily again, but in the blink of an eye, she creates a crisscross wooden web, like a spider web, which is nearly a kilometer long. Width, the entire sky was dragged by her. Boom 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 boom. A large number of magma fists hit the wood and exploded. As usual, these woods should be blown to pieces, and even covering armament hockey would not be intact. Rumble. The magma fist continued to explode, sparks splashed, and the wood would vibrate violently every time it exploded. But the weird thing is that there is no sign of damage anyway. Forget it. The most puzzling thing is that the wood does not entangle armament hockey. In other words, the hardness of the wood itself is enough to withstand the crit of magma. Damn, when does it start? Even wood can withstand the attack of magma. Miller's mentality finally collapsed this time. Not only to resist magma, some magma fists were even forcibly absorbed by the wood. Go straight over. I'm screamed, and the government's fleet gathered enough strength to rush towards Dressrosa frantically. Miller's face was uncertain, combined with the previous defeat, a terrible conjecture suddenly popped up in his heart. This dead woman named Yim, can't she absorb all the power of devil fruit? Such absurd thoughts suddenly appeared in Miller's head. What is his biggest support? It is the power of hundreds of devil fruits. If none of these powers are effective against EIM, then Miller is still playing a hammer? I don't know how hockey is. The strongest hockey Miller has copied so far should be people like Garp and Whitebeard. But wanting to defeat Yim with this, it seems not enough. Bang bang bang. More than a dozen world government warships slammed into the pier like tanks, and the huge Dressrosa trembled a few times. Kill. You don't need to be merciful, the people who see everything are cut and rooted. All the scumbags of the world government will be tortured to death. The frontline forces of the two sides fought fiercely. Regardless of the government's arrival of only a few thousand people, all of them were elites. As for how tough it is, it can be said that there is no one who can't use hockey. Of course, Miller's side is not muddy, and the cadres cooperated with the Demon Fruit Power Army to fight the battle at the first time. Miller was still in the palace watching the movement of the sea, and he was thinking about how to deal with the tricky woman EIM. That is to say, taking advantage of his distraction, the vast scale of sword energies suddenly slashed. Miller's gaze was like a torch, and after that huge sword aura, he followed one person to kill. 5 elders with a knife and bald head. Knowing that he couldn't replicate swordsmanship, he came so quickly, right? Miller snapped his fingers with a snap, and the green barrier in front of him quickly condensed. The next moment, the slash hit the barrier, sparks flew, and the entire barrier trembling. Kaka kaka, a crisp sound followed, and many cracks gradually emerged on the thick barrier. After a stalemate for a few seconds, it shattered and opened, and the remaining sword aura slew towards Miller. Dark Hound. A fist of magma flew out in front of Miller. Boom. A loud noise fell, and the remaining sword energy exploded face to face, turning into thousands of fireflies. The scorching aftermath of the magma quickly dissipated, and the bald-headed 5 elders with a knife was also swallowed, and his entire clothing was instantly burned. However, the old guy was fearless, his whole body covered armament hockey resisting the attack of magma. Diamond Man. Lots of diamonds emerged on Miller's head, and even these diamonds were covered by armament hockey, and they were actually dark black. Damn it. The full blow was just a splash of sparks, and the first-generation ghost finally stopped on the diamond, but the burst of power from the blade took off Miller for the first time. The huge palace was smashed by him. 5 elders, the carrier of Conqueror's hockey, has been captured. Now start copying. 1%, 50%, 100%, and copying is complete. Congratulations to the host for acquiring Conqueror's hockey. The voice of the system rang through my mind for the first time. Miller was a little disappointed. Isn't 5 elders capable? It's a bit difficult. Miller lay under the rubble, assessing the combat effectiveness of both sides. The strength of 5 elders is undoubtedly at the same level. They total 5 people, plus Commander Sengoku, and Garp. In addition, there is also a godlike EIM. The enemy has 9 top combat powers. This F*K is still not counting the Marine and CP organizations. Let me ask, who can stop such a world government? Even if the pirates from all over the world join forces, they may not pass the world government. Fire punch. Miller struck out, and the flames burned the ruins covered in his body. He secreted a spherical space air block with his big hand, and then flashed light all over his body, taking the bald head of 5 elders straight away. Using Sparkling Fruit's high-speed movement, Miller teleported over at a single thought. The first-generation ghost blade glowed with life-threatening brilliance, as if it had already been swept away. Miller used the condensed space of the fleshball fruit to instantly loosen it. Huh. Like a space shuttle, Miller disappeared on the spot, and 5 elders with the knife was shocked. Dark Hound. There was a sharp voice behind him, and Miller threw out a magma punch. Boom. The magma fist exploded on the bald 5 elders, and he sprayed out old blood on the spot. The cold light in Miller's eyes was still very sharp, and thunder and lightning entangled his fist, 500 million volts thunder fist. The eye-catching thunder and lightning made 5 elders with a knife and bald head shocked. This guy wanted to kill himself. He wanted to counterattack with a knife, but the damage caused by lava was too fatal, and his chest seemed to be burned by flames. Master Yim, save me. The bald 5 elders looked at the warship in the distance, and at the same time, a wooden barrier suddenly grew under his feet. Boom. The thunder and lightning hit the wood heavily, and Miller felt like he was bitten by an invisible beast, and the thunder and lightning on his fist was instantly swallowed. Oh shit. Miller yelled at this, and the 500 million volt lightning would not kill the old guy, but Miller was absolutely sure to hit the bald 5 elders severely. Blame this damn woman. Suddenly, his gaze swept over the woman standing on the battleship. Miller was always willing to come to beautiful girls. But looking at Yim, he was inexplicably disgusted, and screamed arrogantly. Wait, when Lousy catches you, will he let you drink my footwash? In the dark, Yim seemed to hear Miller's disrespect, and his beautiful eyes were instantly cold, and a burst of cold air was released. The sea around Dressrosa was all frozen, and Miller was trembling with freezing. After waiting for about 2 or 3 seconds, the system did not move. System, do you really eat shit? Usually, others can copy Lousy by pressing a motorcycle. Now my uncle is so cold that his whole body is shaking and it is not an attack? After waiting for a long time, there was no movement in the system in his head. Miller suddenly cursed, hey, the system, is it possible that you are also frozen? Kill. 5 elders, the bald head that had slowed down, flashed again, and the first-generation ghost stabbed at Miller. A touch of wind and sand came out of Miller's hand, and he shouted, Desert Storm. The moment the sand blows out, it transforms into a fierce sandstorm. With a bald head with a knife, 5 elders was fearless, and the first-generation ghost whistled and swept away. Boom. Slashing Cyclonus, the dust storm that swallowed him vanished in an instant. Immediately afterwards, he slashed violently with a long knife, and several slashes were superimposed together, turning into a huge group of slashes to kill Miller. He straightened up, and the biting cold air spread in a wide range, Ice Age. The vicinity of the palace froze for an instant, and the huge slash that struck sprinted for more than 10 meters in the cold wind, but still did not escape the fate of being frozen and turned into a huge ice sculpture. Kuzan's frozen fruit. The bald head 5 elders with a knife has an ugly face. Miller is indeed too tricky and has too many abilities. No matter what kind of attack, he can choose the corresponding fruit to deal with. The cold wind rushed in, and the bald-headed 5 elders' first-generation ghost was about to sway, and a lot of dead wood immediately appeared around him. The so-called Master Yim had done it again. These pieces of wood were like wild beasts, swallowed one by the chill that would strike. Sure enough, no matter what kind of devil fruit, that dead woman can absorb it. The expression on Miller's face suddenly sank, and he turned his head to look at the world government battleship. The woman seemed to perceive his discomfort, and a smile appeared on the corner of her mouth. Lousy will make you cry later. Miller has a terrible mentality. This woman hasn't really attacked her yet. Is she afraid of being copied? Huh. Miller turned into a burst of light and shot out, catching the thief first, capturing the king, gaining Yim's ability, and then using Yim's ability to sling her doglegs. Isn't it beautiful? Staring at me? Amei's eyes widened slightly, her eyes a little surprised. Take 5 elders as an example, there is no courage to face her at all. Miller descended on Im's head, his hands clenched into hard fists, armed color emission. The space trembled violently, like an invisible gust of wind. Dense branches grew out of Yim's feet methodically, protecting her. Boom. With a loud noise, the defense of the collusion of the branches is still intact, but there are already a lot of cracks on the surface. Miller's eyes flickered. Sure enough, hockey couldn't be absorbed. The fist shook again, and Miller's voice rang when he was about to attack again. You humble human beings, Master Yim can offend you. The bald 5 elders slayed with a knife like a worm, and the ghostly sharp edge of first generation swept straight towards the head of Dammit. Miller's body quickly became elemental and retreated, and the cold blade slashed forward. 500 million volts Thunder Dragon. With a big hand, the Thunder Dragon tens of meters long roared out. 5 elders with a knife and bald head immediately responded with a fierce slash. Boom. The two's ultimate moves were entangled together, and the overbearing slash split the Thunder Dragon, but the aftermath after the lightning burst also successfully crushed the slash. My lord, let us help you. 2 figures suddenly rushed to the face of 5 elders, Kaku and Lucky. Okay. Very good, the world government needs you who can stand up to turn the tide in an emergency like this. 5 elders, a bald head with a knife, Longyan Joy promised. When this holy war is won, the old man will return to Marie Joy's and give you 2. Kaku took the lead in attacking. He used shave to flash in front of Miller instantly, armed color finger pistol. Boom. Those tiny fingers contained a mighty force, and Miller's chest was slightly sunken. 20 million volts. An electric light flashed from Miller's body, and it was swallowed up on Kaku's body in an instant, and he screamed away. Holding a knife, 5 elders concentrated on raising the first-generation ghost, and the dangerous sword aura condensed again. Finger pistol. Lu Chi's voice came in my ears, but... Pouch. Flesh and blood splattered, a heart-piercing pain swept across the body, and the bald 5 elders' scalp instantly permeated a layer of cold sweat. The bald head with a knife, 5 elders looked back. Lu Chi's cold face came into view. You bastard dare to attack me. 5 elders, a bald head with a knife, was stunned. He thought that Lu Chi and Kaku were loyal before, but it penetrated him in a blink of an eye. Shave. The fallen Kaku also stood up suddenly and appeared in front of 5 elders with his bald head at the fastest speed. His fingers were also ruthlessly stabbed out, finger pistol. Pouch. The blood blew out again, and when Kaku took out his finger, the blood flew out like a fountain. My god, why did CP0 attack Lord 5 elders? Aren't Luke and Kaku ours? That adult's heart was beaten. Hateful traitor. The people on the world government side were stunned. How come it hasn't been half an hour since the war? One of them, 5 elders, has been hit hard? Stupid world government, you listened to Spandam's slander, which caused everyone in CP9 to sacrifice. The 2 of us joined CP0 for today. Lu Chi's finger suddenly pulled out, and immediately, Pouch Chick poked a few times, wishing to beat this old guy into a hornet's nest. I'm going to smash your corpses into pieces and throw your bones into ashes. 5 elders, a bald head with a knife, roared again and again. His eyes were blood red, and an overbearing breath burst out of his body. Rumble. The powerful emission hockey broke out. Lu Chi and Kaku seemed to be beaten violently, vomiting blood one after another, and flew out miserably. They have worked very hard, but there is no way, the difference in strength lies there. Really, you 2 shouldn't be exposed so early. Even if you attacked, you should. Miller glanced at Eam. This woman is too hard, even if she can't beat it. I hope Lu Chi and Kaku are not. Nonsense. Forget it. You 2 have done a great job. Miller gave a thumbs up and praised that if Lu Chi and Kaku are fighting head-on, even though their strength has improved, if they can compete with the knife-wielding 5 elders, it is estimated that they will be killed in a flash. The gap was too big, and it was a miracle to be able to hit him hard. The bald head of 5 elders was spurting blood from his wounds and mouth. Miller was beaten violently before, and now he was hit hard again. He noticed the rapid passing of his vitality. Especially Kaku's partner, directly pierced his heart. Master Yim, save me. 5 elders, bald-headed, panting underground, called for Im's help. Useless waste, you can't even control yourself, what use do you want? Im scolded coldly, but he couldn't beat Miller. He didn't blame them. There were some outsiders and there were heavens, not to mention that Miller was indeed a bit enchanting. Throughout the ages, there has never been a situation where a single person possesses hundreds of abilities. But traitors appeared in his subordinates. This is the problem of 5 elders' vision. Maybe these 2 people were responsible for the previous bombing of Marie Joy's. Pouch. Decayed dead wood was drilled under the ground, directly piercing the body of 5 elders with a knife-wielding bald head. Everyone thought Im was going to clean up the portal, including Miller. Thank you, Lord I am. The bald head of 5 elders with a knife showed an excited smile. After the dead tree branch rushed into the body, it conveyed the majestic life force, and his broken organs and wounds were quickly recovering. When Miller saw this, he hurriedly shot. If this guy recovers, wouldn't their previous efforts be wasted? The soles of Miller's feet rushed with lightning, and his body teleported to appear beside 5 elders with a bald head, and his black fist hit his forehead directly. Before this guy can recover, Miller is going to kill him. Master Yim, save me. The bald head with a knife, 5 elders panicked for help. Miller's fist covering Hockey has been smashed with all his strength. The next moment, the whole body of the bald 5 elders was covered by a layer of branches. Boom. The branch that Miller hit with a fist trembled, and with a full blow, even if the branch was hard, it was blasted out of a hole. Emission Hockey is minimally released. Boom. The head of 5 elders resembled a ripe fruit, which shattered at the touch of a touch and instantly became a headless corpse. You bastard. Yim's face suddenly collapsed, and his subordinates were forcibly killed in front of her, and they were killed while still trying their best to rescue them. As the boss, they were all faceless. Aren't you angry? You came to beat Lousy. Miller cocked his ass drum and said slyly, come on, Lousy will slap you, I promise not to fight back. Don't be too rampant. Sengoku and Garp pounced together, and the two fought back and forth. They have been copied anyway, and there is nothing to worry about. Iron Fist Bone Break. Garp Armament Hockey showed it to the utmost extent, attacking from behind Miller with a hard fist. Sengoku attacked frontally, releasing a mighty shockwave in his hands. Faced with the flanking attack of 2 legendary characters, Miller was astonished. He first used Armament Hockey to defend himself, and then a layer of tortoise shell visible to the naked eye appeared on his skin, which was indestructible. Very strong defense. Secondly, on the basis of the tortoise shell, a layer of shiny diamond bedding. Don't think that this is over, the diamond is still covered with an emerald-colored barrier. Armament Hockey, tortoise fruit, shiny, diamond, fruit, barrier fruit, 4 layers of defense. Even if possible, Miller can control sand fruit to condense into sand to cover the body. It's just that it's completely unnecessary. With these 4 layers of defense, it is enough to resist the attack of the 2. Boom. Sengoku's shockwave came first, and Miller, who was shocked, flew upside down. The outermost barrier on his body was shattered on the spot, and the remaining shockwave rolled over the diamond, but it didn't move. Boom boom. The next was Garp's strongest crit. He almost represented the top level of the armed color. When this punch fell, Miller was blown away again, and the diamond covered on his body shattered on the spot. Even the tortoise shell has cracks. You two should work harder. Miller patted the dust on his body and stood up, intact. Damn, who can hurt this guy with this defense? Sengoku and Garp cursed. To tell you, my defense hasn't really been deployed yet. Miller curled his lips, disdainfully. At the same time, the ground under Miller's feet trembled violently, as if something was about to break through. Bang. The ground suddenly shattered and opened, and spear-like branches stabbed head-on. Miller's pupils shrank, and he glanced at Eam. It was this woman who moved his hand. Pouch. Miller didn't evade, allowing the tree spear to pierce through, and as a result, he passed through his chest, and a bloody hole was opened in his chest. Miller spit out old blood in his mouth. After coming to this world, this was the first time he was beaten to vomit blood in the true sense. It's so costly to copy Eam's ability. Cough cough cough. Miller wiped the bloodstains from the corner of his mouth, but he was extremely excited. My God, it succeeded. As expected, Lord Yim, a fatal blow. This guy Miller is dead and the rest are gone. Boss Miller is absolutely impossible to lose like this. This scene made the World Government Party boil. They thought of various ways to kill Miller, but EIM killed Miller with one move. God is God. I heard that you seem to be immortal? The corners of Eim's lips swept in a trivial arc, and she lightly nodded her hand, piercing Miller's branches and began to devour his body's nutrients. Body organs, blood, flesh and blood. These woods are not picky eaters at all, and everything that can be swallowed is swallowed up. Miller's stomach was empty, leaving only a shell. The smile on Yim's face is more obvious. Can he not die like this? Haha. You don't think Lousy can't hide it just now, right? The corner of Miller's mouth showed a cold arc. He glanced at Eam, his long hair fluttering. Long hair, short knowledge, this is a common problem of women. He deliberately let Yim attack, not just to replicate her ability. What is so self-righteous about this woman? Ding ding ding. Devil Fruit Tree Body, pseudo, carrier Yim has been detected. Now start copying. 1%, 50%, 100%, copy is completed. Congratulations to host for obtaining Devil Fruit Tree Body, pseudo. The cold voice of the system resounded through my mind. Miller's mind went blank when he heard this. The body of the Devil Fruit Tree? This guy is the devil fruit tree? Is there such a thing in the world? For a long time, the origin of devil fruit has been a mystery. No one knows where devil fruit came from. When a capable person dies, the next devil fruit will be born from a certain corner of the sea. Therefore, most think this is a gift from the sea. Of course, there are some strange claims. Some people think that devil fruit all fall from the devil fruit tree, and all devil fruit in the world originated from the devil fruit tree. There are many similar legends, but no one thinks this is true. There is no evidence. Most people laughed. Looking at EIM in front of him, Miller knew that the system's judgment would not go wrong. This guy EIM is the devil fruit tree. No wonder this woman can ignore all devil fruit's attacks. The body is actually the devil fruit tree, a 1,000-year-old tree monster. Miller was secretly curious, but then again, what does this false mean? I have copied it, and it is understandable to judge it as fake, but when the system detects EIMs, it seems that it is also marked with the word false. Because the devil fruit tree of the subject is also swallowed, the system explained. No wonder it's Asuto. If she is the devil fruit tree body, can she use the power of all devil fruit in the world? Miller tickles. Unfortunately, not possible. The system explained. The power that the host exerts is exactly the same as that of the testee, and it is limited to being able to absorb all the power of devil fruit. In addition, the use of this ability has huge side effects and great physical exertion. Hearing this, Miller looked at Yim. The clouds were calm and he didn't sweat, and this guy didn't see any side effects. This kid. Is he dead or not? Im also looked at Miller steadily, and he was still standing stiffly, clearly that his internal organs had been hollowed out. There was nothing left in his stomach, and Miller was wandering around as if he was okay. Guru. Suddenly, there was a strange movement in Miller's stomach. Im raised his head, his pretty face showed a deep consternation, and Miller's damaged body exploded with powerful vitality. The heart, liver, intestines and stomach, various important organs and muscle tissues have also grown out. The blood hole opened in the chest was also repaired. As expected of Lord Miller, I knew he wouldn't die so hastily. Wait for the trembling, world government, now fight back. With Miller's recovery, the momentum that had fallen into a trough broke out again, and countless pirates wielded knives, guns and clubs in excitement, and they were fighting with government officials. 500 million volts Thunder Dragon. Enel's golden stick banged the thunder drum on his back, and the terrifying Thunder Dragon spewed out in an instant. Rumble. The lightning was fleeting, and exploded on the muscular man in a flash. His body was suddenly blown out. Thor Enel. Commander Kong stood up from the ground with a gloomy face. He was nicknamed Kong, and he was extremely defensive. He was also shocked by his armament hockey. Go to hell. Facing Shiryu is the blonde 5 elders, whose thunderstorm covered the power of shock fruit and swept out. The space in front of him shattered immediately, and a huge shockwave directed towards the blonde 5 elders. Impel down traitor, I will ruin you here today. The blonde 5 elders' fists were jet black, slammed hard, and the armed color shot out like an air cannon. Rumble. The shockwave collided with hockey, as if the sky had collapsed, and the entire Dressrosa was shaking. The scattered aftermath shattered the earthquake, causing dust and smoke everywhere. On the other side, Miller and Yim also started a confrontation. This is really outstanding ability. Miller shook his arm, and his hand turned into a dry branch. Devil fruit tree, I didn't expect you to get such a good thing. Yim looked shocked. You copied it. Her breathing was sudden, and her face was a little reddish, very shocked. In her opinion, even if Miller can replicate, it is only limited to the abilities of hockey and devil fruit, but right now, even the devil fruit tree is also replicated? Understand that the devil fruit tree in this world is unique. It's incredible. Lousy now has the ability to absorb devil fruit. Thank you very much. After speaking, Miller flew out vigorously, and his body instantly fell in front of EIM, his big hand that turned into a devil fruit tree clenched into a fist and threw it out. I'm fisted back. Boom. The fists of the two smashed together, the space was shattered, and their bodies flew out one after another. Perhaps it was just because of this power that Miller hadn't used EIM so numbly before he was shot into the sea. You are still too naive. Yim suddenly rose into the sky, with endless tree branches growing behind her. She was like a spider attached to a spider web. Countless branches of trees rushed into the soil, growing crazily toward the depths of the earth, absorbing nutrients from the earth. The soil of Dressrosa lost its moisture and began to rapidly desertify. Drilling out of the water, Miller was also inexplicably tired. He found that using the devil fruit tree was extremely exhausting. The system was right. The physical consumption was 10 times that of devil fruit, or even more. Miller looked up and looked at Eam. The woman's breath became more and more terrifying, and her cold eyes were also depressed when Miller saw it. What the hell? How does it feel that this dead woman is stronger than before? Miller was secretly puzzled. Eam's breath hadn't been so strong just now. Could it be? Miller stared at the tree branches that grew out of Eam, and the nutrients that he had drawn from the earth returned to Eam's body? If she can, I have no reason not to, and I can copy this guy's tricks. Miller's thoughts moved, and a large number of tree branches grew behind him, piercing deep into the ground one after another. He and Eam robbed the nutrients of the earth. But soon something unacceptable to Miller happened. After the dead wood pierced into the ground, there was no movement. Through the perception of observation hockey, he found that there were thousands of branches under the whole Dressrosa, all of which were made by Eam. And in just a few seconds, all the land under Dressrosa was turned into sand. Why can she do it? I can't do it. Miller gritted his teeth. It stands to reason that he can also copy the tricks, such as devil fruit. He can use the tricks used by Akainu, and he can use the tricks used by Whitebeard. Some things are useless even if they are copied. Yimu burst into a more and more terrifying aura, and said indifferently, "It's better to tell you directly. I have been repeating one thing for 800 years, communicating with the devil fruit tree. It's not an ordinary thing, it's a divine thing with a spirit. Copying it is one thing, whether it can get its approval, it's another thing." Eam explained slowly. Miller is speechless, and has spirit. Does the devil fruit tree have a legendary tool spirit? Oh no, is it a tree spirit? Damn, you think Shushin, even the spirit of the device has come out. Miller was silent in his heart. He looked at Eam, and even if he was unwilling, he had to admit that this woman was indeed much better than himself. As she said, she has been studying the devil fruit tree for more than 800 years, and Miller just got it for a few minutes. After the enhancement, Yimu is obviously different. Her aura has been upgraded to ultimate, and her majestic aura has caused the surrounding space to be distorted. Miller looked stunned. Maybe Eam is in full strength now, she shows what she should be as a god. Humanity, do you finally know that you are afraid? Seeing Miller staring at him motionlessly, his eyes dark, as if desperate, the corners of Eam's lips fluttered with a playful arc. Don't worry, I won't kill you easily. Eam looked down at Miller condescendingly. Your value is too great, like a treasure trove. You have all kinds of incredible powers that even I would envy. Miller's incomprehensible copy. Eam could see with enthusiasm. She couldn't wait to dissect Miller and study it. She doesn't worry that Miller will die. Isn't this guy immortal? It's not a problem to dissect it hundreds of times. Do you really want me? Miller regained his humble appearance, and smiled at the Eames. That's not easy. Take off your clothes. It's better to have a go-go dance. Lousy is at your disposal. Hearing that, Yim was furious. In these hundreds of years, no one had seen himself nodded and bowed. 5 elders is known as the highest authority in the world. It's not that she has to kneel when she sees her, but this kid is the only one who speaks badly. Didn't put her in the eyes at all. Go to hell. Yim smashed his fist in the air. The space was torn apart, and the terrifying fist wind smashed directly toward Miller. Miller flashed away when he saw this. Boom. The moment the punch fell to Dressrosa, the huge island was instantly punched with a bottomless hole, as if even the crust had been cut through, and the magma deep in the ground sprayed high into the sky. Miller rushed straight into the sky. He used sparkling fruit to teleport in front of Eam, slamming his fist. Boom. An iron fist that was enough to blast through several mountains hit Yim's chest, and she didn't even blink her brows, and responded with a punch with her backhand. Boom. Blood was spilled across the sky, and Miller's newly recovered body was once again exposed to blood. The internal organs were all shattered. The gap is too big, it's not a figure of magnitude at all. This is the gap between man and God. The pirates of the Miller pirate group lost their voices. They looked at the sky and collectively stopped the attack. Including the world government, there is also a tacit understanding to stop fighting. Miller was about to lose, and his power fell apart. The world government lost. Even if they defeated these scum, it was useless, and in the end they were killed by Miller. Being smashed again, Miller's fighting spirit was unabated, and his eyes rushed out with blood red. In this short process, his body was repaired again. This kid is also tricky enough. Could he really be immortal? Yimu is also envious and jealous of this ability, and she can't do it. Absent, Miller rushed again, slamming his fist on her forehead. Eam sneered, straightened his body, and let Miller attack. This guy didn't see the coffin without tears, and is still struggling to death. Go to hell. Lousy will humiliate you when he is dead. Miller's fist that was about to hit Eam's head suddenly spread out, fingers claws, and grabbed her chest. Yim's pretty face changed drastically, and she backed away quickly, but the speed was still a beat slower. Miller finally succeeded, leaving 5 bright red paw prints on her body, and even her white skin was torn. Yimu's beautiful eyes were also dull, and she didn't expect Miller to fight like this. It's this time. How dare she change the law to provoke her? Yi, Lord Yim. The 5 elders below was also dumbfounded, and several of them looked at each other, and they all took a breath. Even as enemies, they admire Miller's courage at the moment. Even if they couldn't beat Eim, they dared to provoke her like this. This is definitely the boldest human in history. Most importantly, Miller succeeded. Give me to die. The enraged Yim was full of savage faces, her small hands were clenched into fists, and the power that covered the earth and destroyed the world smashed out. Boom. A heavy punch fell on Miller's stomach, and his body was suddenly penetrated. Wow. Miller fell into the deep sea, and the sea was hit by 100 meters high water. Wait for the corpse to be broken into pieces. The endless tree branches turned into sharp wooden spears, strangling towards Miller in the sea. This time, she was torn to pieces by Miller. Does Lousy really have to lose here? Under the immersion of the seawater, Miller opened his eyes. He was a little bit decadent. Didn't he work hard enough to become stronger? All kinds of despicable things have been done all over. Even the devil fruit tree was copied right now, and it was still no match for the woman Yim. At this moment, Miller thought of the good life before. Robin, Khalifa, Violet. If he falls, these beautiful girls will leave him. What a joke. Lousy won't allow this to happen. I didn't let you hang on when I crossed over. Miller's pupils exploded with a huge desire to survive. His limbs began to pound the sea hard, and his whole body released a terrifying wave of power, and all the branches of the tree that had hit him were crushed. Perhaps Miller hadn't even noticed it. At this moment, an extremely ancient power suddenly burst out of his body and passed to the deeper sea. The sea area below 10,000 meters is the area where large-scale sea kings are active. All of them are strangely shaped. Some of their heads are like lions, their bodies are like snakes, and some have animal-like limbs. In short, there are all kinds of sea kings. Despite their strange appearances, they all have one characteristic in common: they are extremely huge. The smallest is more than 5,000 meters in size, and the largest can even exceed 100,000 meters. Have you heard? I feel the king's strong call. I felt it too, but it just seemed to erupt from humans? His strong wish. Is it a woman? My God, in this materialistic age, even the great Poseidon has fallen? Our king, shouldn't it be the Murloc princess? These are not important anymore. Poseidon is the king of sea kings, we should. No, sea kings all over the world have to take action. At this moment, countless sea kings under the deep ocean rushed towards Dressrosa at the same time. Boom. A splash of water rushed out of the sea, and Miller, the immortal Xiaoqiang, came out again. He stood in the sky and confronted Yim. Except for the damaged clothes, there was no slightest injury on his body. This resilience is the envy of countless people. Im's eyes were scarlet, and she threw a hard wooden spear out of her palm, oriented straight towards Miller. Miller just turned his body sideways, and the wooden spear flashed past him with a shriek. When I looked at Im again, the woman had already appeared beside Miller, and her white fist hit her face again. Miller hurriedly summoned multiple defenses. Armament hockey, tortoise fruit, diamond fruit, barrier fruit, and even sand fruit condensed into a layer of desert armor to wear on the body. Boom. A domineering punch penetrated and crushed all the defenses, and Miller was blown away again. But this time it was much better than before. At least Miller was not injured. Here it is. Armed emission. Miller also slammed his fist, and emission hockey, which was hard to catch with the naked eye, burst out. Boom. A heavy fist hit Im directly, and compared with the embarrassed Miller, they only took a step back. But when that hockey hit Im, it penetrated like a thick mist. Pouch. 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 The brutal force wreaked havoc on the organs inside the body, and the corners of Yim's mouth finally poured out traces of blood. The highest level of armament hockey is not an emission. Instead, it enters armament hockey inside and destroys it from the inside of the body. I thought you wouldn't shed any blood, Miller teased. After gaining a little bit of the upper hand, I started to lose myself, forgetting how miserable I was before. I am asked in a cold voice. A lot of blue veins appeared on her arm, and a gust of wind swept through her fist, and the space along the way split again. Boom. At this moment, the sea suddenly exploded and opened, and a huge sea king emerged from the deep sea and jumped directly into the air. Pouch. The huge size of this sea king took the place of Miller, and the fat belly was opened with a gap of tens of meters. For humans, such wounds have long been blown up. But for a behemoth over 10,000 meters in size, what is a wound of 10 meters? It's a drop in the bucket. Woo 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 woo. This sea king opened his mouth and yelled, loud and dull roars rang through the world, and everyone covered their ears. Even EIM frowned. Is this a coincidence? On Miller's side, his face was dumbfounded. Damn, am I being beaten to a silly head? Miller understood the whining sound of sea kings in an instant. Wong, step back, let us come. Could it be? Miller suddenly thought of a possibility. When he was in the Fishmen Island in the past, he copied Shirahoshi, and thus obtained her physique, the body of Poseidon, which is simply the power of Poseidon. At that time, it was still unawakened, and it looks like this. It seems that Poseidon's power burst out unintentionally. What happened next also proved Miller's guess. Boom. 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 The calm sea exploded one after another, and countless sea kings emerged from under the ocean. The sizes without exception, all of them are behemoths over 5,000 meters above. Some sea kings are even several times larger than Dressrosa. In the face of such a giant creature, even a caterpillar will break the ground when it is active. Wong, these guys are handed over to us. You are our supreme god, and we have the obligation and responsibility to protect your safety. Everyone acted to help the king defeat the enemy together. That woman seems to be the culprit who destroyed the kingdom of D hundreds of years ago. Hundreds of sea kings talked about it, but in the eyes of the others, it was a woof, and Miller alone understood the conversation of these big guys. Want to help Lousy deal with Yim? That's great. Miller was overjoyed. Although I don't know how to do it, since Sea Kings is willing to come out to help, nothing is more comfortable than this. What's the situation? How come so many Sea Kings suddenly come, and is it my illusion? I always feel that these beasts are on the side of the Miller pirates. Several five elders were struck by lightning one by one, surrounded by countless behemoths, and they were extremely small. There are so many Poseidon, probably someone has awakened the power of Poseidon. The long-bearded five elders looked at Miller and felt cold. Could it be this guy? Impossible. The Eam floating in the sky yelled for the first time, no one knows ancient weapon better than me. I have fought with Poseidon in the past. That is the power that belongs to the Murloc princess. What does it matter to you as a human being? Ha ha ha, you are right. Poseidon is indeed a power that can only be possessed by the Murloc princess, but Miller changed the conversation and sneered. The devil fruit tree is not your exclusive power. In the end, I didn't get it. Hearing this, Yim was speechless. She probably glanced at the super large sea kings with 500 or 600 heads. And this number is still increasing. She glared at Miller fiercely, and finally spit out the extremely unwilling words from her red lips, retreat. Poseidon participated in the battle. Everything was different. Even if she won, it was a terrible victory in the end. Yee. Lord Yim, do you want to retreat? 5 elders on the ground made waves in their hearts. Seeing the great situation, they gave up like this. They just ran away. They didn't suffer a big loss, but one of their 5 elders was killed. Although Poseidon is indeed a tricky existence, Lord Yim, who owns the devil fruit tree, can also fight. As Yim said, she used to fight the Murloc princess who awakened the power of Poseidon 800 years ago, when Yim even had the upper hand. There is no reason to be persuaded at this moment. Why? Because you will all die if you don't retreat. Im's face is dark. She can retreat calmly, but 5 elders and the others are different. Thousands of sea kings are enough to drag them to death. If these doglegs are dead, who else can she expect to help her manage the world? In addition, EIM looked away, and the sound of banging on the sea kept reverberating, water splashing one after another, and more sea kings appeared. With this unlimited increase, sea kings is enough to fill the entire ocean. The sea, after all, is the realm of sea kings, and humans must learn to respect the sea. Miller's eyes changed to staring at the fruit. He looked farther than these people. The sea was shaking violently hundreds of kilometers away, and a large number of sea kings wanted to break through the sea. In addition, because EIM extracted all the nutrients from Dressrosa's land, the land was deserted on a large scale, and the entire island had begun to fall apart. As soon as the wind blows, the yellow sand in the sky disappears with the wind. Everyone is ready to retreat, Then just hand over the battlefield to Sea Kings. Miller's voice resounded through everyone's ears through the blessing of the sonic fruit, and everyone in the Miller pirate group looked at each other. It was this simple sentence that made everyone admire Miller even more. The boss can actually summon Sea Kings. They are all super monsters, each of them is the king of the deep sea. This is enough for the world government to drink a pot. Master Miller is not only the king of the Miller pirates, but also the king of the Sea Kings. The pirates below kept bragging about Miller. Listening to the voices of the people below, Miller, the boss, was embarrassed and looked rather embarrassed. I didn't even know that Poseidon's power broke out. Miller murmured in his heart. According to his guess, it broke out accidentally, and it was far from completely controlling this power. Ask him to summon Sea Kings again, Miller can't do it either. However, the situation of the Miller Pirates group really couldn't go on anymore. His eyes fell on the two big men, Enel and Shiryu, who had blood on their bodies in Kakuzu's mouth. Miller may be able to hold EIM barely, but the enemy still has 4-5 elders, as well as Sora, Garp and Sengoku, and 7 others. It would be suicidal to expect Enel and Shiryu to hold them. The rest of the cadres of the Miller Pirates are also pretty good, such as Khalifa and Bartolomeo, but they have not yet grown to the level of contending with Admiral or 4 emperors. It's almost like the second one. A large number of pirates boarded the battleship and quickly evacuated. Tens of thousands of people quickly set sail, wandering between countless behemoths, their heartbeats also accelerated. To put it bluntly, these large Sea Kings can shatter their warships with a fart. Just let them leave like this. Commander Kong looked at the pirate who was leaving, his fists clenched firmly. You didn't hear Lord Eames' order. The blonde 5 elders stared at his eyes, thinking that we would not dare to defy Eames' order. You, a little army commander, count as a wool. In fact, it is understandable for Commander Kong to persist in this way. After all, the members of the Miller pirate group, from the captain to the crew, are not in trouble. It would be a pity that such a great opportunity was wasted. Ooh. Thousands of Sea Kings launched an attack on Dressrosa's world government. They didn't need any fancy tricks, just opened their mouths or hit them with their bodies. Boom. A super sea monster with a body size of more than 50,000 meters hit Dressrosa. Where did Dressrosa, which had collapsed, withstood such an impact? It was torn in half on the spot. A large number of government personnel fell into the deep sea. Damn, such power is too exaggerated. The long-bearded 5 elders looked at the battleship on the seashore. At this time, he didn't want to annihilate the Miller pirates. His mother's life was important. Everyone, get on the boat and evacuate. A batch of men in black rushed to the shore, and the warship they brought was still docked on the shore. Gulu gulu gulu. The sea around the battleship was bubbling, and the sea seemed to be boiled. Boom. A huge snakehead suddenly appeared under the sea. This is probably the Sea Kings of sea snakes. There are a row of sharp fangs in the big mouth. The body is not very big, but the length is up to 60 or 70,000 meters. The sea snake slammed it hard, and its body swept towards the battleship like a long whip. Quickly stop this beast, it will be bad if the boat is gone. The blonde 5 elders roared worriedly, how can you leave Dressrosa without a boat? Swimming. There are many capable people in the government, such as Sengoku, even himself. Iron Fist Meteor Bone. Garp slammed his fist hard, the space trembled, and emission hockey swept towards the sea snake like a gust of wind. Pouch. The rotten meat flew high in the air mixed with blood, and the whole body of the sea snake was shattered. However, Garp's behavior angered the sea snake, and swept the government warship even more frantically. Boom. Boom. The mighty one-tail swept, and in the end all the warships were shattered and turned into wreckage on the sea. Now there is a good show to watch. Standing in the sky, Miller watched this scene secretly, with a big smile on his face. These super-large Sea Kings obviously have good intelligence, at least they can distinguish between the enemy and the friendly army, the battleships of the Miller pirates. None of the Sea Kings attacked, and even took the initiative to clear the way. But the world government is different. The fierce and oversized Sea Kings launched a frenzied attack. You really want to die? I'm stared at Miller with scarlet eyes, the killing intent in his eyes made no secret. Before I awakened the power of Poseidon, why didn't you say that? Now that the situation is not right, you know it. Miller sneered, you want to stop the war so much. How can there be such good things in this world? You're scared, aren't you? Grandpa Miller coaxes me with the cry, and maybe he will cease the war if he is happy. Miller returned to his humble appearance. In fact, even if I am really called Uncle Miller, he wouldn't have a truce. Seize the opportunity and naturally kill this group of bastards. Wow. The sea began to wave again, and the flat, super large creature sprang out of the sea. His appearance was ugly, and he was different from the ordinary sea kings. The whole body was a big, infiltrating mouth. This mouth is not a normal mouth. Aside from fangs, its length reaches tens of thousands of meters. Ooh. The strange creature opened its mouth, and a stench swept out. Is this going to swallow us? The blonde five elders had an ugly face. The moment the Sea Kings opened his mouth, the world seemed extremely small in front of him. This is not to swallow us, but to swallow Dressrosa all. Sengoku's face is extremely ugly. News of Sea Kings cannibalism often appears, but swallowing an island. Isn't this F***Ka joke? Although Dressrosa's territory has shrunk greatly due to the previous wars, and later because the IM drained the nutrients from the earth, all the soil was lost, and the Sea Kings hit it in half, and the other part had sunk into the deep sea, in it. The remaining small part of Dressrosa is still extremely large, and it is not something that a Sea Kings can swallow. Pouch. The ugly Sea Kings finally bit down with his big mouth, and the bitten Dressrosa was like fat, swallowed alive. Boom. Next came a fierce Sea Kings from the deep sea. The body was also tens of thousands of meters long. Although the big mouth was not as scary as the Sea Kings before, it was also extremely ferocious to take away a part of Dressrosa. Bang bang bang. Large Sea Kings got out of the water one after another, biting Dressrosa frantically, and government personnel were swallowed one after another. Stop these Sea Kings. The blonde five elders yelled, and a black flame burst out all over him, sweeping against the sky, and the dark fire spread. Even if it falls on the surface of the sea, it will not go out, and the Sea Kings will be ignited one after another. But even this is useless. One batch will be burned and another batch of Sea Kings will rush, and the vitality of those Sea Kings is extremely strong. After being swallowed by flames, they are even more fierce, and they keep hitting Dressrosa with their bodies. Black flame? It's really a good fruit ability. Miller's eyes lit up when he saw this. For some reason, when he saw the black flame, he remembered the Amaterasu in the Hokage. The black flame, which can still burn on the sea. Isn't it very similar to Amaterasu? Your fruiting ability is great, but it's lousy now. Miller jumped straight over, letting the fire burn on him. 5 elders, who are capable of Logia's netherflame fruit, have completed the test. Now we will start copying, 1%, 50%, 100%, and the replication is complete. Congratulations on getting the Logia's netherflame fruit. The cold voice of the system came to mind. Miller's mind moved slightly, and a black flame burst out from his palm. Mingan fruit. Sounds like a very good look. Is he copying abilities in this way? Im was standing in the air, her indifferent face looking down at Miller. This ability was indeed too tricky, not as tricky as usual. Kill this guy, it's no scene, people are immortal. In addition, if you said to imprison him, it doesn't seem to work. Imprisoning Miller must first defeat him. If you want to defeat him, you can't avoid physical conflict. Moreover, if he really couldn't fight, Miller could also escape. If he was determined to run away, even couldn't stop him. Sparkling fruit, thunder fruit, gate fruit, meatball fruit and other powers, which one is not an artifact? The most terrible thing is that he also helped Miller explode the power of Poseidon. When I think about it for a moment, Yim is heartbroken and sad, and she seems to have become a warmer. Oh. There was a heart-piercing sound from beneath him, and Yim looked down and swallowed a huge Sea Kings with his mouth open. A mere beast. I sneered, and a large number of devil fruit tree roots were drilled out of his palm, throwing out like a wooden spear. Pouch. 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 The blood stained the sea, and the Sea Kings that was pierced into the blood was blurred. The root system of the devil fruit tree showed a very violent side. In just over 10 seconds, the Sea Kings was swallowed up, and there was a huge floating in the sea. The skeleton looks shocking. Yim is tough, but 5 elders, Garp and others are not as aggressive as her. Even if they beat these Sea Kings in two, even their heads are blown up, some Sea Kings can still move, and their vitality is extremely high. Strong, like a monster. Dozens of huge Sea Kings share Dressrosa, which is like enjoying delicious food. You take one bite at a time. In less than half an hour, Dressrosa still has a very small part of it. The world government brought thousands of people. In the end, there were hundreds of people left, and others died one after another. The most deadly thing is that after Dressrosa was eaten to death, the group of them are now forced to a fragmented territory only a few hundred meters in size, floating around like a lone boat, and there are hundreds of large heads in the surrounding area. Sea kings can swallow the last remaining bits of territory at any one end. Copy Miller. Even if you are Poseidon, it is not good for you to die with us. 5 elders with a long beard shouted to Miller. Let us go, we will not violate each other in the future. It's the same sentence, what didn't you say before? Miller asked indifferently. Boy. You forced me. I must stand up at this time. If all the elites of the world government are killed, she will be the commander of the Bear Pole, and she will survive in name only. I want to see, what other means do you have? Miller said indifferently. The staring fruit spread to the maximum. The sea area within 1,000 kilometers is almost all sea kings in groups. With dry branches and a well-developed root system growing all over Yimu, he rushed towards the sea frantically. Her appearance has also undergone earth-shaking changes, her human appearance has disappeared, and her body has transformed into nourishment to nourish the roots of the devil fruit tree, growing like crazy. In the blink of an eye, a super tree appeared on the sea, with its root system directly connected to the seabed 10,000 meters below. Miller stared at the dry tree, the surface of which was dark black, as if it came from hell, and it was full of ominous feelings at first glance. The most important thing is that he seems to have some indescribable involvement with himself, and he has a feeling of sympathy. Is this the devil fruit tree? Miller guessed uncertainly, his eyes straightened. Miller used observation hockey to dive to the bottom of the sea, and the thick root system plunged directly into the mud on the bottom of the sea. This woman. Wouldn't she want to suck the sea clean, right? Such a terrible idea came to Miller's mind, and the facts proved that Miller was not wrong. After the dense root system reached the mud on the seabed, the devil fruit tree began to grow again. 15,000 meters, 20,000 meters, 30,000 meters, 45,000 meters. The devil fruit tree stopped growing until it climbed to a terrifying level of 100,000 meters. At the same time, this devil fruit tree has recovered some vitality from its previous black skin appearance, and it has actually grown some young shoots. Die to me. The devil fruit tree grows a large number of spikes, thousands of them, even more than the number of sea kings. Pouch. 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 The bloody killing began, countless sea kings were pierced through the body, the blue water was stained blood red, and the sea was full of corpses. It seemed that he realized that his life had come to an end, and groups of absolute sea kings began to hit the devil fruit tree, and some even opened their mouths to bite. Although devil fruit was extremely strong, it was riddled with holes in the face of hundreds of sea kings biting, and a lot of rotten wood was floating on the sea. Gulu gulu gulu. The root system of the devil fruit tree goes deep into the bottom of the sea, constantly taking in nutrients from the earth's crust. Immediately afterwards, those damaged places will be repaired again. No wonder it's called the devil fruit tree. This method is really frantic. It's almost like a devil. It takes in nutrients from all things in the world. Miller took a breath, and the devil fruit tree could even swallow the entire world. Im showed his true colors, and the two sides also started a fierce tug of war. The existence of the devil fruit tree attracted all sea kings' attacks. Even the 5 elders of the world government and others have been temporarily left aside. The war continues tragically. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, the bodies of sea kings were piled up with New World. But even so, there are still endless sea kings rushing towards the sea near Dressrosa. They launched suicide attacks. Im kept secreting a large number of tree branches to attack sea kings. How many sea kings in the world add up? Naturally, it is hundreds of millions. The ruler of the sea is neither a pirate nor a world government, but the sea kings, who cannot be killed anyway. Im frantically squeezed the world's nutrients, and even the seawater was absorbed by the roots of the devil fruit tree. The blue water became black and muddy, and even filled with a foul smell, like ink. Time flies, and another week has passed in a blink of an eye. This is already the 10th day of the battle between Im and the Miller pirates. The two sides have been at war for 10 days and 10 nights, and the sea is full of the bodies of sea kings. Looking from a distance, there is almost no end, just in time for the word floating corpses thousands of miles. Even so, the red-eyed two sides are still fighting. During this period, Miller also participated in the battle circle. His destructiveness can be much stronger than these sea kings. Although the devil fruit tree does not use Yim as smoothly, but with his spear to attack the other's shield, his damage is more effective than those of the sea kings. Rumble. There was a loud noise from the top of the devil fruit tree, and a large number of branches broke off and plunged into the deep sea. It is also worth mentioning that these days, Miller's eating and drinking lizards have been carried out on the devil fruit tree. Just now, just after it was convenient, he wiped the ass drum with the branches of the devil fruit tree. I am furious, unbearable. You stinky kid. Oh, sorry, the situation is urgent, and I didn't bring paper. Miller responded indifferently. Eames' lungs exploded when he heard that. Miller was also a well-known figure in the world anyway, not talking about urinating and defecating anywhere, mainly in the devil fruit tree. What is the difference between this and solving it on her? She is Yim, great and beyond the existence of all living beings. How can she accept this kind of shame? In an instant, countless thoughts popped up in her heart. She was going to break this bastard to pieces no matter what. This is what you forced me. Eames' roar was hysterical, and his voice was particularly hoarse. How many times have you said this? Miller fished out his ears speechlessly. People have three urgency, don't you think about it? Forget it. The image of a goddess in my heart is instantly shattered when I think of what you can do. Miller said to himself. He didn't care how angry Eames was. Lousy couldn't deal with you, couldn't he disgust you? Boom. An unusual movement suddenly broke out from the devil fruit tree. Miller suddenly felt a dangerous breath, because at this moment, the main trunk of the devil fruit tree suddenly flashed flaming light. The devil fruit tree also stopped attacking, and all the nutrients it swallowed were condensed in the light ball. Click. After this vitality was transformed into power, it seemed too majestic. Even the devil fruit tree couldn't bear it, and its surface suddenly tore apart. The power of the ball of light reflected on Miller's body, his hair horrified involuntarily. What is this going to do? There was a bad idea in Miller's mind, and he could conclude that Eames was using some super powerful trick. Papa, the entire devil fruit tree seemed to have reached the end of life, and all branches turned into kuchiki, automatically breaking off. In a short while, the evil demon fruit tree disappeared, and a ball of light with a diameter of more than 100 meters floated in the sky. By now, Miller had guessed what Eames was going to do even though he was an idiot. Self blew up. Righteousness. Miller spit out two words difficultly in his throat. He was extremely shocked. The battle started for half a month. He suffered a lot, but he wanted to get a little sick of I.M. This woman went crazy and wanted F*K to explode. Don't you call yourself a god? Oh no. You should be the king of gods to be exact. Celestial dragons call themselves gods, and Emus being the king of celestial dragons does not mean that he is the king of gods. Such a compelling person was actually blew himself up by Miller's soaring? He looked at the sky and muttered to himself blankly. It is necessary to urinate and defecate anywhere. You and these sea kings will be blown to pieces. Eames' roar came from the ball of light, and the entire trembling sky shook a few times. Boom. The intense white light covered the entire sky. The blue sky turned into a pure white color, and the whole world seemed to be illuminated at this moment. Light does not necessarily bring hope, it may also be suffocating despair. Miller didn't want to stay here to bury him. He turned into lightning and rushed out. Boom. Miller's body hit the white light hard, and his bones were falling apart. His pupils were shocked, could not help but magnify several times. Actually condensed into a barrier? There is no grass in the land covered by light. I am in the sphere of light, said gloomily. You can't escape, let alone elementalization. The entire sky has been imprisoned by me. You have become a turtle in the urn. Hearing that, Miller, who does not believe in evil, tried to use the door fruit to open a space portal, but the whole sky seemed to be locked, and the door fruit lost its function. In this way, the flesh ball fruit is useless. Miller's heart sank suddenly. This time you will not even have a single cell left. As Yim's voice fell, the power of the light ball seemed to have accumulated to ultimate, and the surface cracked and opened, and the power of horror penetrated. Rumble. As a loud noise fell, the huge ball of light exploded on the spot, and the terrifying shockwave engulfed everything in the world. Even though Miller gave himself 5 or 6 layers of defense for the first time, he was crushed by the godlike power. The body was wiped out on the spot, as Yim said, not even a single particle of dust or even a cell remained. In addition, the sky within a few hundred kilometers was also shattered, and the tens of thousands of sea kings on the sea seemed to be without a trace. They were so powerful that even the seawater was evaporated to a depth of 10,000 meters. There was a short-term depletion of seawater. Several islands closer to Dressrosa were also annihilated. At the same time, the whole world shook violently, like an earthquake. People walked out of the house, and in that far direction, the sky was dazzling, as if the second sun had come. People don't know what happened there. All in all, it should be a terrifying event. This scene lasted for a long time before it dissipated. After the self-detonation, Yim's body also appeared again. Compared with before, she was obviously more embarrassed at this moment. Even though his face was pale, that long hair was also white, like dead grass, even with a few traces of bloodstains on the corners of his mouth. I can't feel that guy's existence anymore. Yim's eyes swept away, his eyes resembling the eyes of God, and the sea within 100 kilometers in radius was unobstructed. Those flying in the sky and swimming in the water were all dead, and there were no dead bodies left. That self-destructive move obviously had a great side effect on Yim. She had a ruddy lips, and she sprayed out several mouthfuls of blood. Hateful kid. I stomped angrily. Looking back, she had never been so embarrassed when dealing with the kingdom of D. The 20 kings led by her and the assistance of Uranus easily destroyed the kingdom of D. Don't think that the kingdom of D was pretty good at the time. There are many strong players, let alone the assistance of Pluton and Poseidon. The war at that time was called a world war, and all the kingdoms of the world were involved. At that time, the number of people killed in the battle was more than 1 million. I vaguely remember that she used this trick to kill Poseidon at the time, and the protracted battle ushered in a turning point. Under the dual offensive of Uranus and EIM, Pluton could not stop the celestial dragons at all. The celestial dragons led by EIM successfully invaded the kingdom of D. Everyone in that country has a D in their names. It is a very good race, just like the giants in today's world. It has a prominent physical advantage over ordinary humans. In order to exterminate future troubles, Yim ordered the massacre of all the D clan, and the mass extinction of hundreds of millions of people. Of course, a small number of people escaped, but in the past years, they were still hunted down by the world government. To this day, there are very few members of the D family left. In fact, it is understandable that the world government's rush to kill the D family is indeed different from ordinary people, and everyone is exceptionally good. The monkey family, third generation, Ace, Luo, Blackbeard, Rox D, Zebek and others are almost all well-known figures in the sea, and they have powerful strength. But the 2 generations of Poseidon died under the same trick. Is it a fateful reincarnation? The corners of Yim's mouth fluttered, but she hadn't been proud for long. She vomited a few big mouthfuls of blood again, and her expression became paler. The injury was too serious, and he was fighting with sea kings for half a month. The physical and mental consumption of this process is astronomical. Especially the battle of the devil fruit tree, which looks powerful and unmatched, is actually a bottomless pit, and the loss is immeasurable. Even a marine admiral's physical avatar devil fruit tree fights for 2 hours, and it will be sucked into a corpse after a while. After confirming that there are no living creatures in the sea within a few hundred kilometers, EIM hurriedly retreated and rushed to Marie Joyce to recover. In the early morning of the next day, the first ray of sunlight had just spread over the sea, and the super heavy news spread all over the world. The captain of the Miller pirates, the replica Miller, the news of the death of the war hit the headlines of the newspaper and spread all over the sea. Every corner of the planet, wherever there were people, received news of Miller's death in battle. People's mood is extremely incredible. In the past few months, Miller has risen from the unknown pirates to the super overlord of the New World 4 emperors. It took only half a year from his rise to death. Now this supernova has just died out. It should be understood that although Miller is still the 4 emperors, he is already recognized as the uncrowned king. Kaido and the Ant, both of the 4 emperors, did not dare to provoke Miller at all. Their son and subordinates died, and they did not dare to challenge Miller, saying that Miller was the strongest pirate on this planet cannot be overstated. But, is such a powerful figure suddenly dying? It is hard to imagine, and the most intriguing thing is that the world government has not even announced how to kill Miller. New World's Cake Island. Ha ha ha, that obnoxious brat finally hung up, ha ha ha, great. After learning that Miller had died, the Ant danced in excitement. Since the rise of Miller, she has not been exploited by Miller. The most hateful thing is that the Fishmen Island was originally occupied by her, and as a result, Miller took the bastard away and killed Cracker, one of the core cadres. This matter, Auntie has been brooding about it all the time. Now that Miller was dead, the grievances in the mother's heart had disappeared. But world government is really amazing, isn't that guy known as the Immortal? Keita Curry was puzzled, he didn't expect Miller to die so suddenly. The world government has stood in this world for more than 800 years, and there are too many cards. This is what I know better than you. The Ant's eyes were deep. She used to be a member of Rock's Pirate, and she knew more secrets than others. The ghost island of Wanokuni. Finally dead, let me take over his huge legacy. Once Miller died, Kaido didn't have any scruples. The formerly huge Miller pirates, he was a little jealous of Miller alone. After all, this guy would copy after hitting it. However, when Miller died, Kaido was drooling at the top combat power under his banner. Now it's slow, someone has already started it in advance. A strong man with a huge figure glanced at Kaido and said, he was the boss of the 3 plagues, Kin. Oh no, now it is the 2 plagues, Jack was killed by Miller a long time ago. Who? Kaido looked at King suspiciously. Miller's death, without a doubt, had a huge impact on the entire world. After the fall of the former Whitebeard, all his forces fell apart. Now that Miller is killed in battle, the world thinks that his pirate group will also fall apart. However, it turns out that the world has been thinking a lot. After the Miller pirates evacuated Dressrosa, a group of them occupied Punk Hazard. After the boss of Miller was destroyed, Marine also attacked for the first time. Marine and 3 Admiral were dispatched at the same time. It's a pity that Akainu's thinking is too simple. Even without Miller, there are still 2 people in the Miller pirates who can carry the banners Shiryu and Enel. One is the Shock Fruit ability and the other is the Thunder Fruit ability. Even if the strength of the 2 cannot defeat Marine Admiral, they can entangle 1 Admiral respectively. The remaining Kizaru went to attack Punk Hazard, so let him go, he couldn't stand the toss. Although Shiryu and Enel are dragged, there are other strong ones. Lucci and Kaku, who defected from the world government, naturally joined the Miller pirates, as well as Khalifa and Bartolomeo. There is also the Vinsmoke family, including many supernovae, Luo, Arp, Hawkins, and even Guy Saw. After integrating the personality of Vegapunk, he gradually stabilized, and his IQ was even better than before. A large number of murder weapons were prepared. Marine is miserable. Trash. It's all trash. So many Marine elites, they haven't captured Punk Hazard yet. What do they eat? After the naval headquarters, G1 branch was overturned by Miller, Akainu found a new base in New World. Hearing the battle report from the front line, he immediately called the 3 Admiral and sprayed each of them scolded. Even if there is Miller, there is no Miller now, and it took so long to not capture Punk Hazard? Sakazuki, Enel, and Shiryu have all grown up. Yi Shao and Green Bull were dragged by them, expecting the old man to face the wolves and beasts alone, as well as a large army of capable people. It's terrible. Kizaru started complaining again, you should send some reinforcements. In my opinion, it's just that you guys are lazy and don't want to perform tasks, right? Enel is fine. Shiryu is a few dozen years old, and he is almost catching up with the old man. Tell me how he grows up. Akainu roared again and again, and Kizaru's squad was an insult to his IQ. But having said that, without Miller, how could they persist like this? Akainu was also secretly surprised. The cohesion of the Whitebeard pirate group is strong enough. After Whitebeard's death, the whole pirate group fell apart. How come Miller is still a piece of iron after he died? Confusing. He didn't understand what kind of charm Miller had to make those guys follow suit. In Punk Hazard's underground experiment, the Miller pirate group hollowed out the ground, and they built a huge base underground. The entire island can be said to be solid, and it is really impossible for Marine to break Punk Hazard in a short while. In addition to not bad combat effectiveness, there are also a large number of gas bombs on the island, all of which were developed by Guy Saw, which is extremely dangerous. Is the boss really not dead? Of course, if the boss died, we would have separated long ago. But why has Lord Miller not shown up yet? 80% should have been hit hard, that EIM was too bad, and he was attacked like that, even Master Miller couldn't recover right away. In the underground base, a group of Miller pirates gathered together. At this moment they stared at a glass bottle with a thumb-sized piece of paper in the glass bottle. This is Miller's life card. If Miller dies, this life card will be burned out, and the life card still shows that Miller is still alive. It's just that the original palm-sized life card is left with the thumb cover left and right, enough to see how terrible Miller was hit. It is estimated that where is Boss Miller hiding now? Let's wait. Luo suggested. For now, we just need to hold Punk Hazard. Agree. 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 The cadres nodded one after another. That's why they didn't disband. Everyone knew that Miller was still alive. It's just that for some reason, Miller can't come back for the time being, and can only count on them to defend Punk Hazard. The Battle of Punk Hazard continued. Marine was unable to attack for a long time and wasted a lot of troops. Taking this opportunity, other pirates all over the world began to make trouble again. Miller collapsed, so his throne would naturally be inherited, which also caused a large number of pirates to fight. Seeing that Marine's main force was used to deal with the Miller pirates, some pirates took the opportunity to rob the member countries of the world government, and too much information about assistance was passed to the naval headquarters. As a last resort, Akainu could only regain his strength. Since then, the encirclement and suppression campaign against the Miller pirate group has been a complete failure. It is worth mentioning that there is another person who also landed in New World Monkey D. Luffy. His target was originally from the Miller pirates. Even though the boss is currently dead, Luffy felt it was a pity. He planned to beat Miller personally to relieve his breath. There was no chance again. Even if Miller is dead, it doesn't mean that the grievances between the two sides have ended in this way. Isn't there still the Miller pirates? Moreover, Nami was also deducted from the Miller pirates, who had been kept as a vase by Miller before. After learning hockey, Luffy's strength also soared. He also became more confident and went to Punk Hazard single-handedly. The result was a violent beating. At the very moment, if it weren't for Red Hair Pirates to come to the rescue, Mr. Wong Luffy was almost beheaded by Shiryu. But even so, Luffy was severely wounded and was stabbed in the abdomen, leaving Punk Hazard with unwillingness. He didn't expect the Miller pirates to be so powerful. Not only the captain, but also the cadres are outrageously strong. During this time, Enel and Shiryu's bounty also skyrocketed. Among them, Shiryu reached a staggering 1.95 billion Baileys. And Enel reached 2.010 billion Baileys. No matter when, Enel's bounty can always suppress Shiryu. This is his most annoying, and the two are also secretly fighting for the position of deputy captain. An island in New World. Red Hair Pirates rescued Luffy, who had been severely damaged. His consciousness had been restored, but the expression on his face was a little depressed. When encountering Shiryu, he was almost crushed and beaten, and he was not an opponent at all. Don't be discouraged, Luffy. Under the coconut tree, the redhead carried a wine bottle in his hand, and kept pour it out. Luffy sat next to him decadently, and the red hair patted him on the shoulder comfortingly. The fourth gear you developed is still very promising in my opinion, but your hockey is still far behind and needs to be emphasized. Practice. In addition, don't underestimate Shiryu. He himself is the head guard of Impel Down, and he has also got shock fruit. There are few people in this sea who dare to beat him steadily, the red hair said solemnly. Not even you, Shanks? Luffy asked, turning his head. Didn't you see it? I just snatched you from his knife. As for defeating Yuji Shiryu, this is really not a simple thing, the red hair said slowly. After Miller's death, his mood became much more relaxed. There was already a deep contradiction between the two sides. In addition, the existence of Miller is also the biggest threat in the world. With a lawless guy like him, the sea will never stabilize. I understand. I will work harder in the future. Luffy clenched his fists and defeated Shiryu's hand. He did understand the gap between them. Let's talk about hockey. People's knowledge can predict all their attacks, and Luffy's attacks can hardly hit Shiryu. The other is armament hockey. Armament hockey can be put outside, even destroying the inside of the body. In fact, Long taught Luffy a long time ago, but he didn't realize the essence. Hey. Luffy. At this moment, a man with stubbles suddenly ran over, and he hugged Luffy excitedly. My son Usopp is on your boat, right? How did he behave? Has he embarrassed my dad? If he insults my name, I won't spare that kid. After speaking, Usopp raised his fist and laughed. With such words, anyone can see the pride on Usopp's face. With the relationship between Luffy and Shanks, their father and son might be able to fight together in the future. This is undoubtedly the most anticipated for the father and son soldiers. Usopp. Luffy's eyes dimmed suddenly, tears even flowed from the sides of his eye sockets. Usopp. He's dead. This remark was nothing short of shocking. Red Hair, Usopp, and Beckman who rushed over were all stunned. Usopp is dead? This is absolutely impossible. After a long silence, Usopp let out a desperate and painful roar. He shook his head frantically, unable to accept this. His wife died, and his son Usopp became the only thing he missed. He is also dead now? Usopp cannot accept such stupid things. I'm very sorry. Luffy still kept his head down. Usopp's lifecard has burned to ashes. After spending so many years in New World, everyone knows what it means. Who did it? Usopp grabbed Luffy's shoulders at once, and the powerful force squeezed his bones. Usopp, calm down. Beckman persuaded. In fact, he could understand. After all, he was the only relative. Not long after being shot by the replicator Miller, Usopp died. As for how he died and where the corpse was, no one knows this. Luffy preached in shame. As the captain, not only did he fail to protect the crew, he even failed to find the crew's body. There is no doubt that this is a shame. The extremely painful Usopp madly hammered the coconut tree. It seemed that only this way could he vent his grief and anger. That fellow again. Red Hair also clenched his fist. In the last battle, Red Hair Pirates was pitted by Miller and left the field sadly. This time his subordinate son died indirectly because of Miller. This is simply the nemesis of their Red Hair Pirates.